Welcome to another episode of Behind the Now. Today I chat with acting coach and founder of the Pearlman Acting Academy, Joseph Pearlman. After graduating from NYU's Tisch School of the Arts and RADA, Joseph moved to LA and studied with the great Jeff Corey. Eventually, Joseph's work as an actor led him into coaching, and he became very in demand. Joseph has since worked with a large range of celebrities, musicians, and comedians, and also coaches award show presenters, including for the Oscars, Emmys, Golden Globes, and Grammys, and TED Talk speakers. Listen in to feel Joseph's infectious excitement for the work, his wonderful and creatively free approach to the craft, and ultimately, his positive outlook on all of life. Hi, Joseph. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Jenna. I'm so happy to join you today. Thank you for inviting me. Looking
Yes, thank
forward
you
to
for
this.
coming. Me too.
Yeah,
I'm
my
so
pleasure.
excited.
For sure.
So first, I'm gonna ask you, how did you get into acting? Like, was it in your family? Did you grow up with it in your family, or tell me your whole pathway so far from the beginning?
Whenever I hear this story, I always think of that moment in The Goonies. Do you ever see The Goonies?
I I have to re. I'm
Well,
I.
like Chunk, who's like the fat kid, is like being asked, like, and he tells his whole life story. Anyway, I
Okay.
won't tell you my whole life story, but no, my family is definitely, is definitely not in the arts. Dad, psychiatrist, mom, accounting business professor at Harvard and McGill, and very painful at times,
Mhm.
crying at a table, doing math and not getting it and
Mhm.
being the, black sheep in the family. Two sisters, one in Silicon Valley, the other in finance. So I'm
Yeah.
kind of the crazy one in the family. Um, but it was just always, you know, love theater and did it as a kid and had crazy puppet shows for my friends when they were little, which I won't get into that story because it gets a little weird. And yeah, and so it was always just a performer and did theater and went to some very academic pressure cooker schools like back east where it was very academic folk and jock and academic and sports, and it kind of created the film and theater community at those schools. And then being fairly naive at that age, didn't quite know that, oh, okay, I guess it's possible to go to college and only study this. And so someone told me about NYU Tisch.
Mhm.
My grades weren't up to speed to get in there, but luckily my audition was. So I
Mhm.
got in on academic probation until the first semester, where I
Oh.
did fine.
Mhm.
High school was not, it was an interesting time, but it wasn't
Mhm.
the happiest. So NYU Tisch, and it just opened my eyes to, oh my gosh, it was like the sort of opened the door to what was possible and really had a lot of fun. And then from NYU Tisch, uh, then went on to do some advanced studying at Royal Academy of Dramatic Art my final year, which was really cool, and graduated. And then upon graduation, moved out to Los Angeles to see what that was like. And I got a job working for a cousin who was a casting director, big casting director at the time,
Uh-huh.
being sort of a slave, essentially,
Okay.
casting indentured servant, wasn't getting paid, but I
Yeah.
learned that side of the business, and it was really, really interesting
Yeah.
to learn that side of the business, and did some acting and some theater here in Los Angeles, and then was a very sort of LA can be a very, I think at that time and at that age, I was like 23, kind of a lonely place because all of my friends and family were back east. So I
Mhm.
went back east in search of doing something, feeling more grounded, connected to family and friends, and got involved in theater. Became a company member of the American Repertory Theater at Harvard University. Um, was in a relationship with Amanda Palmer, who's a musician at the time, and we spent the year in Boston doing all sorts of crazy performance art types things. And then after a year, moved to New York, to Brooklyn, and really kind of found my people in my home. Started a theater company that involved the whole
Mhm.
neighborhood of Park Slope, which was a lot of fun. And loved writing and directing and producing and acting, and then met my wife on the streets of Park Slope. I didn't know she'd be my wife at the time,
Mhm.
but on the streets of Park Slope. And then we moved to Los Angeles and got married. And long story short, got a job teaching. I didn't think the teaching and the coaching was always something I was doing in the background. I worked with actors at NYU. I could help actors get from point A to point B very fast with a lot of fun and impact. And got a job working at a boutique studio, Warner Laughlin Studios, which was really cool. And some of you may have heard of that. Jen, have you heard of Warner Studio?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. And so started teaching there. And in my class, we had a young Amy Adams and Zoe Deschanel and Ryan Reynolds and Sherry Shepherd, and they were all kids, and Skylar Grey, who's a Grammy-nominated singer-songwriter. And we all just kind of came, worked together, came up together. And at some point it made sense for me I was sort of doing my own thing anyway. It made sense for me to start my own place, and I did. And it was just word of mouth, and actors that I worked with starting to get, big in terms of their careers and referring other actors. And so here we are, and, and the writing for the Backstage, and it just the momentum took over. But what the thing that I didn't mention was the most profound experience in acting training came after I graduated NYU, moved out to Los Angeles. A friend of the family put me in touch with a teacher, an actor named Jeff Corey, who was a member of the group theater, an actor who was blacklisted, an actor who's done about 200 film and TV credits to his name, most notably the sheriff in Butch Cassidy, the one that says, "All right, guys, tie me up, make it look like I struggled, and be careful, you guys, because you're going to die, and you're going to die bloody." Very famous character actor, and he had an acting class above his garage in Malibu, and he auditioned to get into it, but it was very private. He wasn't a big name acting teacher, and it was incredible because in this class, this small class, every Tuesday, we'd drive up PCH to Point Dume. You'd see Bob Dylan, because Bob Dylan was his neighbor sometimes walking around. So it was this magic experience just going there.
Yeah.
And you'd have Sean Penn would drop in and out of the class, Dick Van Dyke and his kids. It would be an incredible, and I'd never seen anything like it. And Jeff was able to, in one working session, almost like taking a screwdriver and putting it into a screw to tighten up a performance to the point where an actor had a breakthrough every single time they got up and worked. And I'd never seen that before. And NYU or RADA, it was every other class, every 6 weeks, or not every single time. And it set the standard, and I loved it, and I wanted to do it. And Jeff Corey was that person who gave me that real spark and fire to just fall in love with doing this. And and here we are, and I can go on and on, but that's the quick and dirty version of it.
That's amazing. I love that. So,
grew up in Boston, Massachusetts.
I was gonna. Okay, cool. You're in Boston. Okay, and then, so do you see that your teaching style has been influenced by Jeff Corey?
That's a good point. Yes, it was influenced by Jeff Corey. Right now, I sort of describe what we do as we're pushing the outer boundaries of what's next. It's not a fixed thing. We're constantly learning and growing because this incredible community, we keep pushing each other. Jeff Corey has his roots in the group theater and Michael Chekhov, which is deeply physical, emotions coming from the body and being expressed. And so one of the things that Jeff would do was, it was improvisation into text. You'd find the work in your body. He'd give you some dialogue to prime the pump. So he'd give you something, you would say it and do your own. I found over the years, it's way more impactful and empowering for the actor for me to ask the questions, but for all of the improv to come out of them instead of me. Then they need me, and I don't want them to need me. I want your best choices always have to come from you. So it evolved. It's definitely evolved, but absolutely influenced by the incredible work Jeff was doing. And Jeff Corey worked with James Dean for Rebel Without a Cause. He coached Jack Nicholson, John F. Kennedy for his speech. Jeff Corey was this sort of genius behind the scenes, working with some of these incredible actors. Steven Spielberg learned acting from Jeff in Jeff's class. So it was just very lucky. There was a right time, right place situation that I got to get the best acting training I'd ever had after I graduated.
Yes.
You know, the training was good, but after I graduated, it was like, wow, it was like
Mhm.
the best training just kind of emerged at that point, which was really
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting because like I have so much listening to you and I feel like I have in common. Like also
Cool.
my family, no one has ever done anything remotely close. So that's one thing.
Sorry,
And
Jenna.
then sorry.
Said sorry. Sorry. It can be intense, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then also I think people often assume because I went to UCLA and I did theater and film minors at UCLA. But my real training to me and in my head was after UCLA also, similar to how
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes as you know, I teach for NYU now. I do a master class every month, and so I feel like there definitely is a gap that needs to be bridged. So an on ramping of it post conservatory, because sometimes, yeah, there tends to be a bit of a distance. As great as the training was at
Mhm.
NYU and all that, I felt like, okay, and graduating, it was like, okay, we're now brought out to the middle of the ocean, the boat speeds away, and there's no reference point for, okay,
Yeah.
how do we, in practice, how does this all
Yeah.
work? So that's what I do with NYU now to bridge that gap for the
Yeah, that's
graduates
so
and
great.
stuff. But yeah, no,
What
I feel you.
what's some of the things you recommend for that? So for people just coming out of their training or conservatory, now they're actually in the
Yeah.
real world. What's kind of like some I know you obviously do a whole class and you can go so in depth, but what are
Yeah.
some things that someone could right now try implement, even if it's a paradigm shift, you know?
Good question, Jenna. Yeah, that's a really good question. I actually think this because for me, all those years of academia was somewhat toxic. And I actually needed a break.
Yeah.
And don't underestimate the power of the choice of actually taking a break.
Right.
Making the choice. I needed a break because I felt so, I don't know, just the academicness of it all was debilitating, and I
Mm.
was depressed for a bit, and I needed a break, and I felt shitty for taking a break until a good friend said, "Hey, Joseph, you do realize that's a choice?" And I was like, "Wow, yes, it's a choice.
Mm.
Cool. I am making the choice to take a fucking break from all that
Mm.
because there was a lot of suffering involved in that academia, getting
Yeah.
grades for work, and
Right. Which is
it
crazy.
just was not fun, a
Yeah.
lot of it. So I took a break. And then I think the realization that there is no fully trained actor. The next level training, which is what we offer actors,
Mhm.
is not actors that don't know how to act. These are actors that are like award-winning actors. It is the training never ends. There's
Right.
always another side of the moon to something that you didn't see, and somebody could help you do that. That's why people like, Robert De Niro has an acting coach on set with him all the time, et cetera, et cetera. So the training continues, and really ask yourself, do you love acting? And if you love acting, stay sharp, like get a workout. It's a physical sport. It's a
Mhm.
perishable skill. You got to stay active. And then to realize that mindset, as of course I talk about all the time, is everything. Like how you feel is what you get. It's a beautiful quote that a friend shared with me. It was an Abraham quote, and the quote is this: "The universe doesn't hear what you say; the universe hears what you mean."
Mm.
So the
Mhm.
universe hears what you feel. It's not just your words. You could say
Yeah.
all the words you want, but if they're empty of feeling, so to realize it's your emotional life that creates. You create with your emotions, and then your
Oh,
words send it out. And so how you feel is what you get. So what can you do to give you the greatest feeling of inspiration and joy?
right.
So essentially you have to be empowered to create the success,
Mhm.
and to realize that you don't you got to basically feel, as some of my heroes in the sort of manifestation world say, you have to feel ahead of the evidence. So
Right.
figure out what it is that's going to take it for what's going to get you to feel the most beautiful, empowered, joyful blast of fun, and then get clear about what you want. Okay? The industry is not going to fall in your lap. You have to reach out and grab it. At no point does an agent or a manager ever have your back for everything. The
Mm.
best reps maybe get 15%. It is always going to be your job to reach out and grab it. So I would say you got to be proactive. An agent or a manager, you're not more valuable with a rep. A lot of actors think, oh, okay, I just got to find a rep and then my life's going to be no,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. You have to build relationships at every level, writers, directors, producers. So get clear about what you want, figure out what it's going to take for you to feel incredible, and then to learn how to sell yourself, which goes back to, crying at the table with my mom, the business management. What is that thing? How are you going to sell yourself? How are your reps going to sell you when you get on a telephone and build relationships with executives, writers, directors, and producers? So
Yeah.
that's sort of the gist of what I would share with someone
Mhm.
graduating is like, it's okay to take a break.
Yeah.
Like, get a break from this stuff. You cannot live, breathe, eat this all day long. Like, how are you doing? Are you okay? Is there something you need? Like, I have a new mentee from Tisch that I'm meeting for the first time next week. And so
Mhm.
it helps me clarify my thoughts, Jenna. Thank you for the great question.
You said
Yeah.
so much gold was in there. And I love how you said you have the realization that taking a break was a choice because
Yeah.
you find, and based on your experience, do you feel that self growth and growth as an actor go hand in hand?
Absolutely.
Right.
Don't you, Jenna? I mean,
Yeah.
don't we agree? I think we agree on so many things, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So sometimes depending on where you are, but I think a lot of these schools probably and many classes I've noticed create kind of a dependency on getting the validation of the teacher, getting the like of anyone.
Oh my
But
God.
when you sometimes
Yes.
take a break, it makes you really even with the work, right? Like working,
Yes.
just figuring it out for yourself, like how you're going to really do it without any influence. What is satisfying to you? What makes you feel like the work is good? You
You
know?
nailed it. You nailed it. You have to break yourself of a pleasing mindset
Yeah.
because you can't create and please at the same time. You have to
Mhm.
totally break yourself that you're doing this for anybody. You're doing it for you. Everybody, you're doing it for you.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing it for anybody else, it's just not going to work.
Mhm.
Yeah, Jen, I think it comes, I love what you said because that's the thing that was so painful about it. I don't want to do that. I'm not doing this for a grade and I'm not doing this
Yeah.
for you. I'm doing this for me because this work is like the best drug in the world for those actors that love acting. And so I couldn't, that hurt
Yeah.
to be in
Yeah.
that mindset. And you have to cut that cord of trying to please another person. Yes, you want your audience to connect, but they're not going to connect if you're not lit up,
Right.
yourself. So yeah, absolutely, I agree
Yeah.
with
And
that.
the more specific and personal it is, the more people you actually reach. It's not like yes, the deeper and more
Yeah.
specific something goes, ironically, even if you think, oh, that's so specific to me, I don't
Yeah.
think,
Oh, yeah.
even if, like for writing, for instance, like I feel like sometimes you write something and you think it's so specific and weird and maybe it won't make sense, but that's what reaches more people in the end and relates
Yeah.
to more people than trying to keep it general to please anyone. Like it's in
That's
every
right.
aspect. Yeah.
Because if you're lit up, it doesn't matter what you're lit up with. The deep, dark, dirty, wonderful secret in this like art form is that it doesn't matter what you're lit up with as long as you're lit up with. You could be lit up on like ants or you could be lit up on weird shit. Like
Yeah.
I don't know what, but it's nobody's business.
Right.
I think Fred Rogers of Mr. Rogers said it so beautifully. Like, the most beautiful thing you can do in this life is somebody catches an attitude that something's fun, whether it's a kid or an audience. Like, someone catches an attitude just from you being lit up that life can be fun, that something's fun.
Yeah.
And that's it. Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. The weirder, the better, actually.
Yeah. Oh wow, I love
Yeah.
you have such great quotes. Like I've been watching your videos on YouTube or on Backstage through their
Yeah.
channel.
Thanks,
And
Jenna.
oh my gosh, I just love the stuff you bring up. And you often quote Shel Silverstein, who I love.
Yes. Oh
Um,
my God. Yes. I love the quotes because I'm always after clear language. I think
yeah,
somebody said if you can't explain something to someone who's like 7 years
yeah,
old. And the Shel Silverstein quote was is so beautiful. Underneath my outside face, there's a face that none can see. A little less smiley, a little less sure, but a whole lot more like me. And so that was definitely the one I probably mentioned, but it's so one of
it
my favorite
was.
ones. Does
I,
that was the one, right?
mhm.
Good.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
You were referring, I think that was in the case of for So how did you get into coaching presenters? Because I think that was related to that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's sort of a quick one. So years ago, when I was working with Zoe Deschanel,
Mhm.
she called me and she said, "Hey, Joseph, like I know this is really weird, but like I kind of need your help for this thing. I think I can talk about this. I need your help for this thing. I'm presenting at the Grammys, and it's like, like she knows how to act, but she's
Right.
like, there's like millions of people, maybe a bit, I don't know, there's millions of people watching this, and I have to be myself. So like I feel really weird that I need this, and I'm like, no, 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 this is really cool. Um, let's do this. So I would work with her at her house at the time, which was always fun to go over there because she was in a relationship with Ben Gibbard of Death Cab for Cutie, and I love the band, so it's always a trip.
Mhm.
And we had fun, and we coached on it and worked on it, and got helped to get her in her body and to have a little bit of bedroom rock star kind of fuck it fun
Mhm.
to out fun and burn through any nerves or fear or anything like that. So it started with Zoe, and then just started working with more clients in preparation for, the presentation type of
Yeah.
stuff. And then it turned into helping presenters in other arenas like TED Talk presenters, speakers, and Doctors Without Borders and UN speeches and stuff like that. It just was like, oh wow, because as you guys, well, and your audience knows, like that the work we do in acting applies to every other thing that you do in the realm of public speaking.
Yeah.
So, and I had a lot of fun working with folks in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. So it very much organically just there was a need for it and you were
Yeah.
there and so it organically grew. That's amazing.
Yeah. She was like, I'm like, yeah, let's do this. Let's go
Yeah.
for this. Yeah, this is really cool. This is a fun challenge. And then it got into a whole thing. I wrote an article for Backstage on coaching presenters for award ceremonies, and it's intense. Like someone's nominated for an Oscar award. It's like, my God, like what do I do? All the cameras are on them. They're gonna lose or they're gonna win. It's like, so there's some stuff we can do. There's work we can do to make it more fun for them.
Yes, that's so cool.
Yeah,
You've
it's fun to
worked
do
with
that.
Zoe Deschanel since she was very young then, right? It sounds like.
Yeah, I would say since maybe 2004. Okay,
Oh,
so I can't do that math in my head, but to figure out, how old she is now. But yeah, it's in 2004, and it was sort of around the time of Hitchhiker's Guide. Elf was finished. It was kind of that time when would say, "Hey, I'm working with this incredible actor person, Zoe Deschanel." People didn't know who she was, and I'm like, "Have you seen Elf?" Like,
yeah.
yeah, she's the actor with the blonde hair in Elf, but that's not her real hair. So nobody knew who she was really at that time. So around 2004-ish, I would say.
So cool.
Yeah.
And what is okay, so let's dive into auditions a bit, okay?
Hmm.
So
Sure.
when you first get an audition or you're working with a student who first is getting an audition, what's kind
Yeah.
of the first thing you guys do? What's the process like?
First, I just had a conversation today with some of our faculty. I was like, we're not going to use the word student. It's too academic. I try to take all the academic. I'm just teasing, Jenna, but I call it actor, friend, a
Yes.
client. When I'm working with an actor and a client, like what's the first thing we do when we coach on an audition or they work on a currently casting piece in class?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So the first thing that we do is get clarity, context. There's so many different ways of auditioning. Okay. A callback is different than a first read. It's different than on camera, a taped audition, different than a pre read.
Mhm.
Even a table read is a form of an audition. So we get really clear. Like, I am working on a first read on tape, and it's a single camera comedy. So we get very clear about what the context is, and we clarify the style. Okay. Like, what is this world? What's the structure? Think about it like this. What's the structure you get to go crazy inside? Like, is it single camera, multi camera, hybrid, VR, gritty, streaming,
Mhm.
drama, episodic procedure? You get really clear about it. And the first thing we'll do is this. If it's a new actor, I'll be like, okay, hey, uh, let's check in for a second. Like, what is the auditioning experience like for you? How do you feel? Do you deal with nerve? Like, what's going on? Let's just check in. Okay,
Mhm.
great. And then we'll read the piece. Okay, I'll read with them, or in class they'll have a reader. We're gonna read it out loud. Don't put any pressure on it. Let's see what it wants to be. Let's throw it up on the canvas. And like, okay, great. So we read it out loud. Now we're going to put it down. And then we're going to go back to the question of, okay, great. So what's this style again? If they're not familiar with single camera, we'll talk about that world. It's grounded emotions, grounded jokes, people as open books. If it's multi-camera, it's actually closer to theater than you'd imagine. It's bigger, louder, faster, funnier, lifted joke. So we get clear about the world. Then the next thing we're going to do is this. We're going to say, what is the trap? What's the obvious choice? What is not going to stand out? And it's a realization that in life, how much of our words, again, going back to the words and what you really feel, how much of what you're saying is what you actually are feeling. And so a lot of actors think in the name of doing justice to the writing, I'm going to choose an intention that's something like what the writer's saying, and they're going to emotionally obey the text. And that actually does not do justice to the writing. It's weird. Again, the universe doesn't hear what you say. The universe hears what you mean. So the question is, what heavy lifting is the text doing that you don't have to do?
Right.
And it's the first thing that you're going to do with an audition to stand out like a flashing light with 1,800 other actors. So you're going to figure out, how do I not want to do this? And then we're going to start to get into the character work. And all throughout the work, Jenna, the actors are talking out loud. You have to let go of your idea of who she is in order to discover who she actually is. So we don't think about her in our head. We can write what you want. It's not harmful, but you really want to discover your words create your reality. So our character work is this out loud verbal discovery of who she is. Anything you attach the words I am to, you become. And so we talk in a first person, like you've seen in the work. And so we go on this discovery. I did a video on Backstage for your audience called something like First Steps When You Get an Audition. It's a free YouTube video. And I think that's about right. But yeah. So those are some of the first steps. It's really trying to let go of an idea of who they are so you can discover her. And Stella Adler had a great quote, which is, the facts are death to an actor until they're fed through imagination to become experience. So we want to discover, otherwise you're going to get stuck on an idea because your best choices, I always love when the actor said, oh my God, it wasn't at all what I thought it was. And then it goes back to the last quote, which I'll share right now, which is Einstein, is you can't solve a problem using the same level of consciousness that created it. So you got to go on a discovery, and you have to let go of your idea of her. And that's really a really good way to just clear your desk and have some fun starting and not make yourself crazy.
So one thing you talk about is, I have so many things I could ask you, so I'm trying to just decide which way to go. But
go with like whatever is more fun for you. Like what would be most useful? I mean, this is all like, I know you love acting. So nerd out on whatever you want, and I could talk about this stuff all day. Yeah.
So I know that you talk about making dangerous choices, dangerous acting, right? And and actually, before I follow up with that, do you want to explain a little bit just what that is? What do you see that as? Yeah.
Dangerous acting is not where anybody gets hurt or traumatized personally. No, dangerous acting is when you're watching a piece of acting and you literally feel like you can't catch your breath because it's so intense, you feel like you might pass out. Ben Kingsley talked about this. As a kid, he'd go sneak into the Royal Shakespeare Company, go right up front. I love going in British theater, going right up front because you'd get a rain of spit on you from the actors. Felt like, wouldn't fall asleep that way. He said, I was so intense sometimes I felt like I would pass out. And that's dangerous acting. Dangerous acting is when the actor's off balance, the audience is off balance. It's work that's teetering on the edge of sanity. It's work that might scare the shit out of you, and it takes an audience's breath away. It's dangerous because it really...
unpredictable.
It's unpredictable. Yes. At no point do we use this work to hurt somebody else. I always say there's two rules in acting. One, you don't actually hurt another person physically. You don't hurt them physically or emotionally, and there's no real sex. So between those goalposts, there's an infinite amount of danger that can get really intense. So yes, that's dangerous acting. No one's getting hurt, but it's taking people's breaths away, taking their breath away.
I was once doing an improv in class where I like fell to the ground just so randomly.
Oh
Because,
no.
yeah,
Did you get hurt?
no, I was fine. But it was like, I was so, it got like so intense that yeah, I got it like kind of weak. Like, kind of like, I don't think I properly passed out, but yeah, I know
And
it's
what
not,
was the reaction? Were people like, "Holy shit!" Like Jenna? Like, I mean, was it like? I
oh,
mean,
yes, yeah. And
yeah.
the poor guy I was, yeah, having a thing with.
But was it okay? So the question is this: like, okay, so was it fun?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
There you go. So that sounds like a pretty genius piece of acting that happened
yeah.
there.
So,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, so in terms of choices now,
Yeah.
do you, um, when you speak of dangerous choices, are the choices coming from impulse, or are any of these choices something you can predetermine, like decide in your head and then follow through and do that? Are they mutually exclusive, or do you mean both? If you,
No, they're separate because Joaquin Phoenix talks about it a lot. He says when you get an idea of how to play the person, it really makes your ego feel good, like you have a grip on it. But then when you get into a discovery mode, you're stuck. You're stuck on an idea and you're not able to discover. So it's actually, it should be all discovery.
yeah,
So the choices are, there's a certain part of the work where it's like, okay, glasses on, we're going to look in there and we're going to examine like, who is everybody? What's your feeling for them? We're going to do all the craft stuff, but there's a point where you have to take your glasses off, fly out into
yeah,
interstellar, and just and sort of in the moment kind of work this out, talking in the moment
right,
to let go of all of your best laid plans and completely discover. And dangerous acting is oftentimes like doing the opposite of what everybody's going to do. What's an opposite choice?
right,
It's the
right,
most dangerous choice. What's something that you know, what, and the producers always, when they see it, the network and the producers are like, oh my God, they'll say, thank you for being brave enough, willing to do the only thing that everybody else wasn't willing to do. It was the only reason why we cast you, or it wasn't at all what we were looking for. It was better.
yeah,
So dangerous is actually kind of, and also the danger to face ourselves, because that's a big one. When we get a role, we want to run so far outside of ourselves to try to find her or him. But actually the start of the work always starts with you.
yes, and it's
You're
much
not, do you
easier.
agree, Jenna?
Yes, definitely.
Because you're not playing yourself. But I always say you can't create a humanity and a soul that's more intricate, infinite, beautiful than your own. So we're not playing ourselves, but we're bringing ourselves to it. You're asking yourself, under what conditions would it be possible for me to feel like this? What would that feel like if I was in that dangerous situation or
Yeah,
beautiful romantic situation? Like, how would I feel? Not you in your life, but how would you feel under the influence of emotions that you might not live with every day?
yeah,
And you're sort of the image of garlic pressing, garlic pressing the character through the framework of your personality,
mhm,
not imposing you on it,
yeah,
but asking yourself, it's finding ways of relating and identifying, even though you haven't experienced it. So it's, yeah, it's definitely start with yourself. Like, what would this feel like? Don't run out to try to figure out who she is. You know, her humanity and soul is yours.
right.
So, yeah. What do you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. And there's
Cool.
I never even think of like maybe early on, but it's like there's no she or he, it's me, because you're living it now. Like,
Yeah.
there's no one else.
Yeah, that's right. And okay, so and what we're doing, it's almost like there's infinite versions. I feel
Yeah,
there's infinite versions of ourselves. And there's a version of ourself that could be that bloody murderer, a version of ourselves that could be that heroine. And we're yanking from that like infinite now and bringing that version of ourselves. It's our version. Otherwise, I always use the example of like your humanity and soul is a vital contribution to everything that you do. It has to be there. It is always your version of that. The reason great actors are great is because they have the bravery to bring themselves to every single thing that they do, not because they go. And the example I always like to use is I admire Johnny Depp as an actor a lot, but if you compare his version of Willy Wonka to Gene Wilder's version of Willy Wonka, the Gene Wilder version is an example of dangerous acting. terrifying because Gene Wilder is bringing elements of himself to it, and it scared the shit out of me, that performance. And the Johnny Depp version was interesting, but it was more two-dimensional to me because it was like I was missing the humanity and the soul in it. Anyway, could go on and on about that whole performance. But yeah, Jenna, it's like, and I think the actor that doesn't, if they don't understand what I'm saying, I'm not saying that you're playing yourself. You're bringing yourself. It's you under the influence.
Yes, it's like, because you have all this in you, much more than you even realize, right? And it's
Yes,
sometimes deciding what are you bringing more to the forefront and what are you, it's like those elements. I feel like that,
exactly.
yes, but it's you because it is you, but it's through this character. I'm saying exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, no, but it's great because yes, no, it's important for everyone to have clear language for themselves about what it means to them. But yeah, 100%. Because we are capable. We're human animals. We're capable of relating and identifying with an infinite amount of stuff we haven't actually experienced in life. Don't just look to your life. Like you have some. We all have experience, greater degree, some not. But like we can actually tap into this like collective consciousness and relate to stuff. Philip Seymour Hoffman was asked, one of my favorite actors, in a magazine interview years ago, of all the characters you played, which one could you relate to? And he said, I could relate or partly relate to all the characters I played, all of them. And in fact, when all the work was over, I didn't do anything physically, behaviorally to alter myself in any way. That's an actor that trusts that the preparation is in them and they don't have to do anything. Great acting preparation, you live off the interest of it. You don't show it while you're acting. It's something that's seeds planted and you can leave it alone. But I like that Philip Seymour Hoffman had the bravery to say, I could relate or partly relate to every single role that I played. And I think every actor should be open to being able to do that because they can.
I think you can't play something you don't relate to 0%.
No.
Because even the most evil villain, you're not you. I mean, you're not judging. You're understanding. Like it's just, you know what I mean. There's always a universal truth that's there, and that's kind
Yes.
of the thing that you can always hook into for you.
Yes. And I would dare any actor to be like, if you think you can't relate to that person, I bet you can. And not only might it take a little time, but it's going to end up being a whole lot easier than you thought it would be to actually get yourself there, to feel that. So that's the fun and the challenge of the work. It's like, no. And it doesn't make you a serial killer. It doesn't make you a bad person. It actually is healthy to actually find under what conditions would it be possible for you to do that. That's the journey. So
Yeah.
don't get shut down by something you don't think you can relate to because there's always a way through it. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. And that's one of the reasons I love this work. Like, I think it's the most beautiful thing in the world because it shows by example that we're all fundamentally the same, right? How
Yes.
can you play this and this and this? And you can do it because we have that, the fundamental, like the truth that's there.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
we are all the same. There's a whole universe. What's so cool is in acting there so much is beyond the senses, okay? There's so much that's felt. It was another Fred Rogers quote, but what's most essential in life is invisible to the eye.
Mm.
And so many folks and artists and human beings in life, they're only on the dimension of what they can see, like objects and things. And what's amazing about what we get to do, Jenna, and this community gets to do, is we get to like in a completely dark room, okay? Literally pull magic and wonder out of our bodies and make shit, like cool shit, without dealing with objects or things. Like,
Yeah.
hello, like we
Uh-huh.
get to pull that out of our bodies and make something using our words and our emotions. And to me, I can't think of anything better to help people learn how to become like better people than
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
the work that we do, as
Yeah.
actors. Yeah.
And the second thing that I was like, the second part to what I was saying, it's the same thing, like, but you just led there, is that I really think it spreads acceptance of everyone because it's living proof that we are all fundamentally the same. That's kind of actually
I
the
love that.
point of what I thought also, but yes.
That's brilliant. Absolutely. Like it's so easy to be like, these are glasses, this is a pen, that's that person, that's this like
Mhm.
no. Yes, we are all fundamentally, we're all the same, like energy and light, you
Mhm.
know, that we're all the same. It's just this apparent, you know, difference in all these things. And someone
Amazing.
will think there are people that think are crazy. Oh, what the fuck is they? What the fuck is he
Yeah.
talking about? But yes, but I think people really deep down they know that, you know,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
it's all love and light and just beautiful, like just infinite energy, and we're trying to just like clear the way to blast it out for this character, to blast it in that way for another character. But
Mhm.
but but that's what we are, you know.
So in terms of auditioning, sometimes where you have to just at the end choose what take to send. But
Yeah.
what's your approach to that? Are you saying that you probably choose, you know, not by watching it, right after you feel the one that, oh, that was like that one I really, based on my feeling, and
Yeah.
then you decide in that moment that's the one I'm sending? Is
I'll
that what?
give you a cool hack for it. When I'm taping actors virtually, it's either the shortest one or the last one. So sometimes it takes a couple takes to hit the pace that the scene wants to be. All scenes have this internal pace. It's
Mm-hmm.
like the San Francisco cable car system where the cable's actually running underneath the ground independent from the train, and you want to clamp onto it and get pulled into it. So the pace is going to start to pick up. It's either the shortest take or the last one, but it's always the take that was more fun for you.
Yeah.
Remember, there's four markers for great acting. Was it fun? Did it feel effortless? Were you having impact? And did it feel like your version, not like your idea? But the fun
Uh-huh.
is the big one. And you always go with the one that was most fun, that reminds you what you love about why you love doing this. And you do that, never the one you think they're going to like, because
Right.
I say this all the time, but you don't guess what you think they're looking for. Okay, they don't know what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Assume you are who they're looking for with your
Yeah.
inspired choices and your bursts of giggles or laughter or whatever. Assume you are who they're looking for. Bring yourself to the piece with a brave and fun choice. So again, it comes back, Jenna, to cutting the cable completely of what you think they want, because they don't know what you
Yeah.
want. You're trying to show them something, what they didn't know they wanted yet, which was a
Mhm.
Diana Vreeland quote. But yeah, Jenna, I would say 100% trust how you feel.
Yeah.
That's always the best one to do.
Yes. I love that. I mean, I
Yeah.
love everything you're saying.
But that's the thing too. Like if you're just starting, I think there's also a sort of mindset sometimes that actors will just like, this is the Olympics, okay? You're here working with folks that have worked a lot and they've had a lot of impact, and um, this is the, it's like if you just jumped into acting for the first time and somebody's trained for like 16 weeks, sometimes actors will want to like the equivalent of going to audition in front of the LA Philharmonic. Like, no, no, no. Like, your great work is not about your effort. It's all about your impact. You can get there, but you just want to make sure that you're at that Olympic level before. Now I'm not talking to you because I know you are, but you want to make sure you're at your Olympic level before you put yourself out there. And I'm also saying how you're going to know that. Don't, not somebody else that's going to tell you. You're going to
Yeah.
feel it.
Yeah.
And it's going to be that kind of that fun
Yeah.
feeling for sure.
Comes back to that thing of you're of really tuning into what feel like, yeah, you know, immediately you feel like
Totally.
that was like terrible, that wasn't it. Or you
Yeah.
just know like I just lived that, you know, like you just know that.
Yeah. And you can't feel that if you're trying to do something. Same with like
Yeah.
relationships or dating, or like you can't try to get
Mhm.
somebody to like, you can't try to do that. So it's either you're having fun or you're not.
Yeah.
I love the quotes too, but Bob Dylan had it so beautifully. He said, an artist has to be careful never really to arrive at a place where they feel like they're at somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay? He said you always have to be in this place of becoming. And as long as you stay in that place of becoming, you'll always be okay.
Hmm.
And so many folks are going into these situations, life or industry, where they have an agenda. They want someone to think something or like some. They're trying to manipulate inside of that system. And and the only thing that's going to work is just you having pure fun for you, staying connected to who you're staying connected. You know, it's just,
Hmm.
there's some law about that where,
Yeah.
the people that we are friends with or in relationships with, it's just, you know, there's
Yeah.
an effortlessness to that. You can't effort your way for somebody to be into you as an
Yeah.
actor, yeah,
Uh-huh.
right?
And I
Yeah.
think, and I also think, I always think it's so important. And just to remember that you can work on something as much as you want, but in the end, when you're about to go live that, you just
Yeah.
let it go. The let
Yes.
it go is so important
Yes.
because if you
Totally let
let
it
it
go.
go, there's nothing that it is going to be that. But if you have any kind of idea or like anything you're still holding on to, there's no room for the freedom, like for the
That's right.
impulses to come through.
100%, Jenna. You got it. Yeah. If you think on this line, I'm about to hit this beat, you're going to be out of it. You have to totally let it go.
Yeah.
Great training is like these seeds that you plant that you get to live off the interest of. And when you start acting, you're coming in a room lit up on something. And then your blank canvas is that
Yeah.
you're still lit up, but you don't have to do anything anymore. I like the image of a sailboat. You take a sailboat and you put a sail up, it catches some wind. It starts getting pulled forward momentum. And if you put the sail down, the boat is still going to move. Then the sail drops down and the boat's going to move, or it could crash or capsize or whatever. But yeah, you don't have to do anything. I don't know what you're going to do. You don't know what I'm going to do, moment by moment. And that's dangerous in and of itself. Just to totally surrender to the now, which is the subject of this great podcast of yours. Yeah.
And that analogy is brilliant because all the sailboat is doing is being available for that wind, right? You're
That's it.
being available.
Yeah, and it's not, there's not a motor. It's
Mhm.
it's actual wind, and the wind is, the wind was always there basically.
Yeah,
So it's are you receptive to it, and
you
are you
can't
getting that
feel it.
pull? And then the boat comes down, and then it's just like moment by moment, blank canvas, not knowing what somebody's going to do. And
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah,
yeah.
that's the
Be
best.
present and available and receptive to the wind.
Yeah, and if you want to explode in laughter, then explode in laughter, or you want to like have some Schadenfreude moment of malicious glee, and then something happens, you go with it. Like, get weird. It's okay to be off balance. We want to start a scene by falling backwards into something,
Yeah,
not by like knowing where our foot's gonna,
yeah.
the next step that our foot's gonna take. No,
Uh,
we want to fall backwards, screaming and laughing, and then the lines come out. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I love all this so much.
yeah.
So good to talk about this.
Because it's like also like life stuff, right, Jenna? It's like,
Yeah, yeah,
it's also
exactly. It
like,
really is.
so, and then when you're living in this way, you trigger this momentum. So talking about like the, feeling empowered to actually create success, like when you're doing the training, like good acting trainer training, that is actually helping your career. A lot of actors don't know this, but like in a darkened private space, if you're lighting yourself up, you
Mhm.
can trigger you will trigger waves of momentum. There is a return of that wave. And so there's a path to, I think, actors that get this, they never have to try to get their careers. Their careers come to them. Like the careers come to them effortlessly because they're working in this more fun, smarter way, in a way.
Mm,
Yeah.
I love that. And not just in your acting or in your class or in your films, and not like in life too. Like the second you leave the theater or whatever, to keep that mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't have to do anything to keep it too. That's the other
Right.
cool thing. It's like,
Right.
think of confidence, or things that you light you up. They're self-sustaining. So you don't have to try to keep feeling it. Something might happen to change it because that's normal, but it's self-sustaining. And that's the thing that like it's hard for an actor to realize, because sometimes they think every moment should be always like joke, like birthing a calf, but like no.
Yeah.
No, every moment is not like that. And it's like you need to trust that when you're lit up that you can take your hand off the wheel. Do you know what I'm saying? You don't
Yeah.
have to do any more work. It's just playtime. That's
Definitely.
all this is. It's just playtime.
Yeah. It is.
Actors, it's just playtime. Don't make yourselves crazy. Don't hurt yourself. You don't have to suffer in any way to
Mhm.
live this beautiful life that we all live and want to live and all that. Yeah.
Yes, I agree with you. I think I heard you saying once even that like talking, speaking, breathing, listening are natural things too. Like if you feel like you
Totally.
know nothing,
Yes.
no,
And
how have I been doing the whole life thing?
And when something's fun, like this hangout we're having, when something's fun, you don't have to try to frickin' focus. I remember in school,
Yeah,
you'd really have to try to focus because
right. It's
like
like
this shit was
a whole
boring.
effort to this thing. Yeah.
But like when something's fun, you don't have to try to. You're listened, you're talked. It's like, yeah. So when something's fun, we all know how to talk and listen normally. And sometimes I think over training can make somebody overly conscious of the
Mhm.
basic act of like
Yeah.
talking and listening, to the point where they're Will Ferrell doing this impression of the actor giving 110% all the time. And like, it's like, it's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, so much effort,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ugh, I could just keep talking.
me
I'm gonna
too.
I'm gonna ask you a few random fun things, okay?
Sure. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So first one, this is ironic because we've been talking about acting this whole time, but
Yeah.
um, what other profession, if not this, would you pursue? Or like would you have liked to, not even in real life, just like out of, for fun?
Oh my God. That's crazy. What other profession? I think like musician. I think how cool would that be to play an instrument really, really well and connect with people on that non-verbal, verbal, but non-verbal level. So, you know, musician, singer, songwriter type of thing. That's really inspiring.
Mhm.
100%. And yeah, and then I think that would be at like the top of the list,
Yeah.
but there's so many other like fascinating things like quantum physics and getting into that kind of world.
Mhm.
But it's a world that you can get lost in the head sometimes. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. What about you, Jenna? Like, what do you think? What would you say?
The
It's
first
a tricky one.
thing that one thing I absolutely love are animals and specifically marine biology, like anything in the ocean. I think
Yeah.
that's just like gorgeous artwork that no
Yeah.
one made. I just can't believe how amazing it is. In the
Like being able to sort of be underwater and live in that kind of like live in that world like that, or to study it above. Would
Both,
both?
honestly,
Yeah.
both. Yeah, I just think it's so fascinating. And most of the Earth's biodiversity and everything is in the ocean. So our
Yeah.
experience in that way is so limited. We're missing out most of life, which is so
Cool.
crazy to me. Like, in a way,
Yeah. Did you see that documentary, My Octopus Teacher?
yes. Uh,
Did you love it?
yes, I absolutely loved that.
Yeah, that's really cool. And it's something so magic about being under there, like under the water, like in that whole other world and peace. There's
Yeah.
something really peaceful about it. Cool, Jenna. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that would definitely be mine. Yeah, I love like whales and like so so many.
My daughter is so into that stuff right now because she loves the show Octonauts, and it's about these
Yeah.
she every episode is about rescuing some animal, and there's all this information in
Yeah.
it, but she loves that world. She's 5 and like she's
Oh,
obsessed with it, and like I'm like, "Hey, sweetie, did you know this?" She's like, "Yeah, I knew that. Like I already knew
oh,
that." And like we talked about it. I could see her being a marine biologist or something. What's
yeah.
the title? What's the title of that job, Jenna? Is it marine biologist
I think
or
marine biologist, but there's different things also. There's like,
yeah.
like zoologist and I don't know.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I want to change mine and do that. That sounds
Yeah.
way less intense. Yeah, and
And
so much more fun and
yeah.
peaceful. Yeah.
And there's people that specialize specifically in, like a certain species or like some crazy, I don't even want to say crazy, but like some like really weird specific
Yeah.
species that's their whole life. That's their everything that they're studying every day. I just think it's fascinating.
And you can go like infinitely down the rabbit hole on just one thing, right?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
one species. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And
cool.
there's so much we don't know still. We know so little. So I just think it's endlessly. That's very cool.
Yeah. There's some conversations that like like the whatever the UFO phenomenon is something that's going on inside the oceans or something like that. Yeah. It's so interesting, Jenna. As a kid, and even now a little bit, I was always kind of freaked out to swim in an ocean and even in
Mm.
a lake in some sense. I went to like summer camp on this in Maine in this lake, and it's just like this like mass of unknown below you that you can't see. Something about that. Does that freak you out too, or do you love that?
I feel like right now I feel like I love that, but I mean
Yeah.
I haven't had any negative experiences and I'm like
Good.
sure like it makes sense that a lot of people don't like that. You know what I mean?
No, it's just I haven't had a negative experience, and it's not that I don't like it. It's just that like there's an infinite like dark, seemingly dark, of
Yeah.
like all this unknown. And I feel like if I could basically like see or something, like if I could see it
Right.
all, it would be cool. But like Yeah, it definitely it definitely puts me off balance. Dangerous
Yeah.
acting, dangerous
Yeah.
marine biology. Anyway, yeah,
Yes. I mean, yeah, I understand.
yeah.
I so understand you, but
I
yeah.
think as a kid I was in a lake and like a fish that just like I don't know, just like brushes by you. It's just like, ah. That's just me. I'm weird. Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
almost
yeah.
think too from like this is like not related to anything, but um I always sometimes think too of like say you're on a beach or something and there's like a rock of moss and
Yeah.
people are like ew or like they don't want to touch it and I'm always thinking how to some fish that's like the best meal ever. Like what we think is ew is like so
Yeah.
gold to others, you know?
It's like a delicacy to fish. It's like their sushi. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
I don't know. I always think like don't, like I get like I'm like don't say that. I mean that's very valuable, you know? Like don't just like pick it like anyway.
But that's like I think like an actor mentality is to like look at the weird and look at the stuff that everyone's gonna be like ew, like the stuff that somebody and then to be like no, like to turn it over and to explore it a little bit, to be interested and open to like that kind of a thing and
Hmm.
not to shut it down, to allow it, as a
Yeah, I've
possibility.
never
Yeah.
thought of it like that, but oh yeah, I'm always like people don't like certain bugs and I'm always like messing like I love the different bugs and stuff.
So like entomology maybe, Jenna,
No.
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. Okay. If you were a professional athlete, what sport would you play?
Duh. Uh, question. Okay, question. God, professional athlete. What sport would I play? Um, Swimmer. I was big into swimming as a kid. I was on an Olympic training team in
Oh,
Boston, and
yeah.
yeah, swimming. I love it. Yeah, just
Yeah.
in pools, not lakes or
Amazing.
oceans.
Is there anything specific that comes to you of what you love about it, or just because of the experience and everything?
Yeah, I love that again, it's similar to what I described with acting. You're not engaging, you're just in water. It's your
Mhm.
body in freaking water. You don't have a device or a thing or like,
Yeah.
yeah, goggles or whatever, but like you don't have a lot of shit that you need,
Yeah.
objects. It's like it's your body moving in water,
Mhm.
And so I've always just connected to being in the water as a kid
Yeah.
and swam and all that and so yeah, for swimming.
That also makes
Swimming.
me think I love stuff like in acting too. It's like, what are you doing? But that's the kind of thing where you're not going to have anything in your way because you have no
Right.
choice but to be present and get the job done. Like
That's
swim to the
right.
side, right? So it's like, what do you want? What are you doing? Like literally doing, you know?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you're working with this resistance, and it's water, and it's yeah. So
Yeah.
for
There's no
100%,
time or room to have like extra stuff in your head. Be like, what if I swam like this? You know?
yeah, it's immediate, definitely, and it goes back to the now thing. It
Yeah.
throws you can't not be in the now,
Yes. Yeah.
in that when you're doing that. Yeah, no, competitions and race. It was intense, super intense with
Yeah.
that stuff, but just life takes you elsewhere. Yeah,
Hmm. That's awesome. And then my
yeah,
last question is,
sure.
which you kind of, I mean, you've covered this in many ways, but what is something you do to be the now?
What is something that I do, Jenna, to be in the now?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, this is great. Um, so teaching puts me in the now. Like every time I coach or I teach, I can't help but be in the now, like
Mhm.
engaging. And then meditation as well too, like putting the devices down, which is always hard,
Mhm.
putting all the stuff down and also, after class, I also talk out loud. Like I think that's one of the things that people don't think about is like do you have a space or can you take space to like talk out loud and talk to the universe, talk to whoever you want to talk to yourself, and use your out loud words to give gratitude and to thank. And so talking out loud, speaking out loud, there's a certain like, oh, what if somebody's
Mhm.
listening and thinks you're crazy or what. So meditation, sort of short meditations, talking out loud and doing the work I do because it is extremely in the now,
Yeah.
extremely present and focused, you know.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of awesome to sort of like drift away from it after it's over and to sort of
Yeah.
let it go. But yeah.
That's so
Yeah, it's a
beautiful.
beautiful question, Jenna. Yeah, it's interesting. It's fluid. Something that always puts me and the folks that we work with in the now. When you're having fun, you're always in the now. So like,
Yeah.
there's certain things where you're nowed in a way. Like
Mhm.
you're somebody lifts you from the back of your, and drops you into the now, and that's like fun 100%. And there's something cool, Jenna, about what happens to time when you're in that now. It's like
Yeah.
it starts to change. It gets shorter. It stretches. It gets weird. Um, I don't remember who said it, but your point of power is in the now. Your present
Yeah.
point of power is in the is in the now. And I think it could be overthought, but you know,
Yes, definitely. Like,
yeah,
yeah. Like sometimes also, I find if you're kind of like anxious or just like you feel you just kind of like stop, like just stop for a second, everything, even like the thoughts, and just be like, what do I want to do right now, just for fun? Like,
yeah,
what do I want to do that's just like to like get in touch again with the inspiration? Is it like I want to read that book finally? I want to watch something. I want to like it could be anything, and I sometimes think just allowing that, like giving the permission when you're in a situation like that, you know?
but it takes that awareness to just like stop and like check in,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is really cool to do that. Yeah, this is like a whole other conversation like to get
yeah,
into, this you know, reality of this, just it's all now and all things existing in this sort of,
yeah.
in this now space. But there's so much that I think the human brain can't wrap itself around with the now. But
Mhm.
that's the fun of, again, like the work is when you're so lit and in the moment. It's the most purest expression of the now that like you
Yeah,
could have,
yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
it's so
yeah.
cool.
Humans have this issue with having such a complex brain because most, and I don't even want to say complex and like certain species aren't complex, but I think that's just the only way we talk about it. But I
Yeah.
don't necessarily think that, we don't know. But what I'm getting at is like a lot of most species won't don't have this issue of like any type of chronic stress or anything that's chronic
Hmm.
because everything is immediate. Like if you've ever seen or watched an animal that's just like eating or something and a predator comes by and then they have that immediate fight or flight, but the
Yeah.
second the predator's gone, they're not still thinking, what if it comes back? They're completely present still and they're
Cool.
just at peace, which is crazy because we
Oh,
wouldn't be
that's
like
so
that.
interesting. Yeah, that's really, really interesting. It makes me think of that concept of Alan Watts, who I've always loved listening to, says anxiety and laughter are the same emotions, but from different points of view, different
Mm.
perspective. Like we give a story to feelings. Like we have a
Oh,
story of suffering about one thing we feel, and then a story of joy about something else, and we attach these things, and we're always trying to create meaning and story around stuff.
yeah. I
That's
think
the other
that's so
thing.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
instead of accepting it, you're saying like we make everything into we attach meaning to external things, or we
Yes.
explain a feeling or something with we have to have some like justification. We try to find a justification.
That, exactly that. Yeah, there's some justification or some story. And yeah, and it was a Yuval Noah Harari who wrote
Mhm.
Sapiens that said you have to be careful of stories, especially ones that involve suffering,
Yeah,
um, because you could
yeah,
really get hung up on them. And same with actors, like the story of this is how your career is supposed to be, and it has to look like this, and you
mm.
have to go from co-star to guest star. No, you can jump it. You can start at the top, and you can go down, or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what it is, Jenna? I kind of feel like I have a brain that just like, not that I'm always in the now because it's impossible, but
Sure.
like I give up on trying to figure stuff out. Like
Yeah,
to
that's
me, I live off my oxygen is in trying to find ways to be in the now.
mhm.
Basically, that's what I think I
Yeah,
love. One of the things I love about what we all do here and all
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yes, I love that. And sometimes I like this is something sometimes like anything like oh I wish like something you wish went differently or anything just like for a second stop it and just be like I'm gonna accept how exactly what happened accept
Yeah.
exactly Like that just accept whatever is the existing thing, but take a moment to consciously actually accept it, and you'll see you really just change in that moment. You're not trying to think about something still, like overthink it, but you're just like it helps you like let go of something. I find to just immediately accept it.
But that comes back to that great thing that you're doing, which is that awareness. Is like take a breath, take a moment, and like be conscious and aware. And I think so many folks are just at the effect of it, and
Mm.
they don't step back and into like a full awareness type of picture. And that's the second time you described doing that. So that's I think a superpower to be able to do that, is to like take a step. Yeah, just take a step back from it. Yeah.
Yeah, and like get in touch, really get in touch with like try just like let go of the all this stuff to see what's really there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
And then there's like that like paradox of the trying. You can't also like try to be present or try to do anything.
No.
It's
Yeah,
just so
totally.
ironic because the more you try, the
Yeah.
more away from it you are, which is the
It
same with acting too. You
it'll
can't really
make you
try
angry.
to do anything. Yeah.
The angry yogi. Like they're trying so so hard.
Yeah.
It reminds me of some of the Bikram yoga days.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
I like the word accept now that because that doesn't imply any effort. It's something you can at any point you can accept, like more so than believe, for instance, right?
Totally. Because believe, no, I love that, Jenna. Like I'm thinking of like, oh, what are some other words that are effortless? Well, I know fun is, but yeah, accept is beautiful because there's no effort attached to it. Like
Yeah.
words that have no effort attached to it. Love,
Mm.
fun, and there's infinite. There's you can get a. I remember a couple of years ago, I was like, I want to get my head around the infinite, which is obviously impossible. And I'm like, whoa, okay. So what we're doing in acting, like fun is infinite, love is infinite, like, and accept is another version of that. Like acceptance opens the
Yeah.
door to everything, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, like in acting too, I always specifically think like I you accept the circumstances. I'm just accepting them. Like this is what is, you know? It's just
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then yeah. And you could feel when you're actually accepting them or when you're like having any gap in like your understanding of something, which is different. You know, you can't
Yeah.
just be like, I accept. Well, sometimes you can, but yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
You hear it sometimes when an actor says, "Well, I wouldn't do that. I can't like hold on a second. It might be take a little while for you to figure out under what conditions would it be
yeah,
possible for you to do that or feel that. But trust me, you can, and
yeah,
it is possible. And it doesn't. You have to get over like looking like an asshole or being a monster
right.
um
Or anything, like
or anything.
stupid or whatever it is. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, oh my God, this opens the door to like hours more
I
conversation and
know.
like we're gonna be freaking yeah.
Yeah.
Jenna, thank you. This was
Thank you
so
so much. I
first of
really appreciate it.
oh my gosh, such a pleasure. Thank you because what was so beautiful about this was that this whole thing was almost a sort of now moment, piece of art or something. It was very completely present. And again, the time goes like,
I
here we
know. Oh
are.
my gosh. Yeah.
But it's beautiful because uh, it's exactly what the podcast is about. So thank you. This was so
Thank
fun.
you so much. And then before we go, just let our listeners know where they
Mhm.
can find you and take your class. How do they learn
Sure.
about you?
Yeah, you guys can you can come watch. We work with everybody, all over the world, from celebrities to beginners. You guys can get a free audit from anywhere in the world via Zoom. Meet our celebrity clients, come watch the work, and you can go to the website to do that at www.josephpearlman, PEARLMAN.com. Click the get a free audit. And yeah, and you can follow the community on Instagram at Joseph Pearlman, Twitter at Joseph Pearlman, Clubhouse at Joseph Pearlman, where we do all sorts of really fun acting, mindset, manifestation type of stuff. But yeah, I would say just like come and watch the work. It's free. Come see what we're cooking up as a community and join the fun with us. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
I
Jenna.
love it.
This was great. I have a lot of coaching today, and we have a master class later and stuff like this. And so it's an intense couple of days. And so this really just like is like renewing, and I feel highly energized after this. So thank you so
Oh my
much again.
God.